so much for coming this morning. I know that many of you have travel plans and we'll try to maintain on schedule. I'm a J, so we'll have to deal with it. Thank you so much for coming. We're excited about this final closing plenary. This is in response to a lot of requests from last year saying that all of you wanted closure, so here's our attempt, and we hope you enjoy it. And by the way, we are videoing the session this morning, and it will be offered as a webinar for those who couldn't attend. So let's get started. Pat Schwaligidis started this tradition, if you will, last year when she had a program called Career Development Idols. And I decided that I wanted to do a little something different, and so I am calling this session, or this group of panelists, the Society for Extraordinary Ladies and Gentlemen, because they definitely are extraordinary. And what I'm going to do to start off is just tell you a little bit about why I chose these people and their special meaning to me. So we'll start on my right with Dr. Norm Amundson from British Columbia. I first learned of Norm's work through a DVD that I acquired from a conference that I attended a number of years ago at NCDA. And I was just in awe and overwhelmed by his technique. And it was a DVD of an interview that he conducted with a young woman about her career, her story, and just the way the questions that he asked and the information that he was able to glean from that was just amazing. And it was my first introduction to the use of story in career counseling. So it had a really important impact on me. And so that's why I asked Norm to join us this morning. Marcheta Evans, Dr. Marcheta Evans is a dynamo. And she is, I guess, very immediate as of yesterday, a past president of the American Counseling Association. Marcheta is one of my homegirls because she's from Texas, and Texans kicked you-know-what this year in the national front, and so I'm very excited to have her here. My first close association with Marcheta was at one of the ACA conference, the COPARC meetings that I attended as president-elect of NCDA, and I was struck with her energy, her vitality, and her dedication to the work of counseling. And so that's why I asked Marcheta to join us this morning. And then we have Dr. Howard Splete. And I have to tell just a little story about Howard. Howard and I first met in, I want to say 2000, 2001, when he came to Texas to help me train some CDF instructors. Because I was doing CDF work here in Texas, and I had so much work on my plate that I couldn't do it all myself, and I needed help. And at the time, I wasn't a master trainer, so I couldn't do train the instructor. So Howard agreed to come, and it was a match made in heaven, I think. And we found out that we both loved sports. And Howard gave me his test, and I won't tell you what it was because there isn't time, but it was about sports, and I passed the test. And Howard decided that I was for real. I really knew my sports, and we've been good friends ever since. And he has been a wonderful mentor to me in NCDA. My first real job in NCDA was as credentials chair back when we still had annual meetings with delegates from each of the states. And so Howard and I he's been a mentor and a colleague for a number of years, and so he was definitely a choice for me. And then, of course, last but not least, John is never last in anything, and that's Dr. John Krumboltz. And I have to tell you that when I first heard the term planned happenstance, I thought he was talking about me, because I was in the right place at the right time when, in California to take part in John F. Kennedy's program for a master's in career development. It was a perfect fit for me. Of course, the SDS said I should be a funeral director, but that wasn't of particular interest to me. So I happened to be at the right place at the right time. Ruth Rogers was the chair of the program at the time, and the rest is history. So thank you, John, for naming your theory based on my life. So let's get started. I'm going to ask Norm this question. Norm, share with us the person that influenced you the most in your career.
I guess if I had to name anyone, it would be Dr. Ed Herr from Penn State University. Going back to the early 80s, we met in Sweden, of all places, at a conference where we both were speaking. Ended up looking for souvenirs together in the city, became really good friends, and he was somebody who just really encouraged me in every aspect in terms of the research I was doing, the presentations I was making. He was one of the first ones. I actually did a presentation on metaphors back in the late 80s with Ed, and the only thing I had to remember about him was that to get him off his notes. So I would, because when he talked just from the heart, he was fantastic. So he'd have it all prepared, and then I would get him off that, and we'd go on another track, and he could never know what I was going to do next. So it made a good partnership.
Thank you. Howard, who most influenced you in your career?
Professor at Wayne State University, George Leonard. There's a little interesting story to tell. I was recruited by George and Wayne State faculty over a bar at a conference in New Orleans. And as we were drinking beer and, going along with the jazz band, he kept promoting me to come to Wayne State. And I did, and that was a great choice for me. But while I was there, he was a tremendous role model. I had 15 years of experience in school counseling, but I hadn't worked at the university level other than a couple of adjunct courses. And he kind of took me under his arm and said, this is what we can do and what we can't do. Even though he was enamored with Super's theories, having come out of Columbia, he was able to relate theory to practice. And that really impressed me. I needed that. And two things about the activities he introduced me to. Number one was at the community level. We worked with students and parents in the Detroit community schools. He had a program called Developmental Career Guidance back in 1970, you believe that? And it worked. It really worked because community people were involved with the educators and business people were involved with the educators. So he taught me, number one, that you needed to collaborate with community and business as well as come from an educational setting. And secondly, he is the one that got me started in NCDA. At that time, it was called the National Vocational Guidance Association. And we had a little squabble at one time changing the name, but we changed it. And, but he got me involved in NCDA, and that's been a very, very meaningful thing for me because of the experiences I've had with the officers, with the headquarters people, and primarily with the membership of the group. One last thing, I know John is ready, but you talked about being credentials chair. I served on Credentials Committee, Professional Standards Committee within the organization, and I was Credentials Chair way back when. We had state membership and the Assembly. Well, that goes along with what's changed with the organization. That's enough. Okay.
Thank you. John, how about you?
Well, okay. I would name Willis E. Dugan, who was a professor at the University of Minnesota. And I'll tell you why. Because I got my master's degree from Columbia University during the time when Carl Rogers was God. And so we were learning non-directive counseling, and that was the only good kind of counseling. And then there were those people who had believed in directive counseling, and they were centered at the University of Minnesota, where evil was reigning. And so I got my first job as a school counselor in Waterloo, Iowa, my home state. And so I tried to practice non-directive counseling as I had been taught. And somehow the students at Waterloo, West Waterloo High School did not take to non-directive counseling very well. And but I was doing the best I could. And in fact, finally I got one student who would, I could reflect feelings for about 6 hours. And, you know, and at the end of the 6th hour, this student said to me, he was a boy, he said, "Mr. Krumboltz, aren't we ever going to do something?" And so I finally figured out maybe there's something more to career counseling. And so I joined the Iowa Personnel and Guidance Association. They had a meeting in Des Moines, and I went to the meeting, and the keynote speaker in Des Moines was Professor Willis E. Dugan from the University of Minnesota, where all evil resided. And so I thought, whoa, this is, I don't know if I can take this, but his title, the title of his address was 18 Actions That School Counselors Should Be Taking. 18 actions. Wow, that was a new idea. And he listed these 18 things that we should be doing. I wasn't doing any of them. But every one of them sounded like a good idea. And so when I went back to Waterloo, I changed my whole style of counseling. And then talk about unexpected events and happenstance. I decided I needed to know more about counseling. There's a lot more to learn than I knew. And so I decided I would apply to some graduate program. And I applied to the University of Minnesota. It was the only place I wanted to go.
Where evil resided.
Dugan. Right. Or maybe it was because I liked evil, I'm not sure. But anyway, that's where I went. And when I was there in the summer, the associate dean called me in and said, "We've been looking over your test scores, and we'd like to offer you a chance to be a teaching assistant here at our university." I said, "Wow, okay." But listen, I said I signed a contract to go back to Waterloo, Iowa, to be a counselor. And he said, well, we would really like you to be a TA here. And, well, tell me more about the TA. Well, we want you to be a TA for Professor Willis E. Dugan.
Ooh.
And I thought, oh, that's exactly what I want. Exactly what I want. But I've signed a contract to go back to Iowa. Well, think it over, okay? So during the summer, Dugan wasn't there, so I went to see my other advisor, who was C. Gilbert Wren. And Dr. Wren was at that moment in his non-directive mode, see? And so I said, "Dr. Wren, I've got this terrible dilemma. I would love to take this teaching assistantship with Dr. Dugan this coming year, but I've signed a contract to go back to Waterloo, and I've been taught by my mother and father never to break a promise. So what do you think I should do?" And he said, "So you're concerned about this issue?" And I said, "Yes, and so what do you think I should do?" And he said, "You're really very concerned about this issue. Why don't you make another appointment and come back and see me?" So I came back a second time, the same thing. I came back a third time to see him. I said, "Listen, Dr. Wren, I really want your opinion. What do you think I should do?" He waited a long pause. I'm not sure what was going through his head. And finally he said to me, "John, you would be a fool to go back to Waterloo, Iowa." I said, thank you, Dr. Wren, that's what I wanted to hear you say. And I called the superintendent in Waterloo, Iowa, and told him that I wanted to change my plans. He said, no problem, no problem. We can get somebody else to take your place. It's perfectly okay. And so I was totally relieved, this whole thing. But anyway, you ask who influenced me? Dr. Wren influenced me. Carl Rogers influenced me. But Willis E. Dugan is the one I would name.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Marcheta?
That's hard to follow.
I don't know. I think John got the message that the one who's the funniest gets a prize.
Right.
I was serious.
Well, you know, I have a positive influencer, I guess, and a negative. My grandmother, whenever anyone asks me that question about the greatest influencer in my life, I always go back to how I was raised. And she had this philosophy that when much is given, much is expected, as far as privilege. And I grew up in Alabama. She was a teacher. And so her expectation was that I was supposed to go out and serve the rest of the world. I actually listened to her. And so as a result of that, ended up in the counseling profession. Originally, I was supposed to be a real doctor. Started off with a biology chemistry major. But I found out as far as the negative influence, I graduated from high school when I was 16. I thought I was all that. And went off to school to go to medical school was the eventual outcome. But I realized very quickly when I got into my organic chemistry class that maybe this wasn't the right choice, that maybe I needed to go in a different direction. But then I actually started thinking about my preparation in high school. And I was very articulate, cute, back in the day when we had the fros and stuff. And the counselors really did not prepare me for a background to go into the STEM area, so to speak. I didn't have the math and the sciences that I should have had. I wasn't as prepared, even though that was the end goal, was to go to medical school. They had me in the humanities honors program and not the sciences. And I started looking at, again, the females, the African Americans growing up in Alabama that were moving on into those areas, and just knew that they needed more people that looked like me to help guide them through that process. So then I was determined I was going to be a school counselor. But back in the day, you had to have 2 years teaching experience to be a school counselor.
You still do.
In some states, you do.
Here in Texas.
Yes, in Texas, you do as well. And I went, well, what can I do? Well, I don't know if any of you know Dr. Jean Cecil. She used to be really active and involved in the counseling profession. She since has died. She came and offered me a stipend to go to school, pay all my tuition to become a vocational rehab counselor. I went, man, I can still go to school. Somebody will pay for it, and I'll get money every month. That was a great influencer, So I actually decided, since I couldn't be a school counselor, I would become a vocational rehab counselor and work with what's called a transitional caseload, those individuals that had special needs from grades 8 into college, and help them prepare to go out into the real world. So, my grandmother, I guess the negative influence was the counselors that I felt like didn't prepare me as well as they should, and really wanted to make a difference. So that's how I ended up here.
Great, thank you. Think about NCDA in terms of a scrapbook. What pictures or highlights come to mind? And let's start with you, Marcheta.
Ooh, you? When I think about NCDA and scrapbook, I think about my beginning course as far as one of the 4 divisions for ACA. Of course, it always relates back to ACA. And just, having that kind of ingrained in my mind, the importance of your division in the whole development of counseling and how important that was. I think of just careers, period, and I think of faces in that scrapbook that have made an impact in my life. I had this saying that people enter your life for a reason, season, or a lifetime. What lesson am I supposed to learn from this encounter, even my encounter with you? I teach, I'm a counselor educator, and I teach counseling. One of the hardest things, and I've also been a department chair, one of the hardest things I'm trying to get my faculty to understand is that career counseling is counseling. Career counseling is counseling, You know, when we're doing practicums and internships and our students need to make placements at these particular sites, and I feel like I'm getting on a soapbox right now, but this is real important to me.
Go for it.
You know, sometimes counselor educators don't realize that a lot of people that come in for counseling, a lot of it centers around their vocational choices they've made. The income, the problems they're having at work. I mean, there's so many different areas there. So in that scrapbook, I'm seeing the faces of my faculty trying to get them to understand career counseling is counseling and put that student in the career center so they can do that practicum.
Thank you.
I'm done.
Amen, sister. Howard, scrapbook pictures.
It's all a blur right now, but there were so many things that I thought about when you gave us the questions. To pick out one that's been most important to me was the involvement of NCDA with the National Board of Certified Counselors when we worked out the initial CDF program. And that's a story that deals with NCDA members. Judy Hoppin and I and Bobby Floyd is here. Some of the original people with the CDF program got an awful lot of support from people around the country who said we're not doing enough career development services for all of our population. Pretty much an educational setting or a private practice setting. Who's dealing with people in the workforce? Who's dealing with kids who aren't in college prep programs? Who's taking care of all the population? What we looked at was a program that was a general enough program so that we could have standards for practitioners who didn't have standards. And we worked from NCDA guidelines to put that together, many, many hours. And we had support from NECA, we had support from other groups, the Workforce Development Group, people all over the country. But this was almost a 2 or 3 year process in terms of developing a survey, looking at a curriculum, getting it field tested. And then, surprisingly enough, where we are right now, we're looking at credentialing. And at that time, I went to the NCDA board and said, why don't we credential career development facilitators? We can't do that. That's not our responsibility. What can we do? So we went hat in hand to NBCC, and with an awful lot of work, Judy's part, Jane Goodman's part, got them to agree to establish a subgroup, which was called a Center on Credentialing and Education. At that time, they were credentialing only master's level people. We opened the door for them to credential non-master's level people in many fields, which can be good or bad. But at that time, it was very important that we had professional standards for career development facilitators. So to wrap up in terms of time and effort and accomplishment within NCDA, in my scrapbook, it would have to deal with the CDF project.
Thank you. John, I'm going to switch questions on you. What changes have you seen, and what do you see our profession morphing to in the next 10 to 15 years?
Oh, I love that question. I'm glad it's a surprise question.
We're being spontaneous.
Well, we're being spontaneous. Absolutely, absolutely. Well, okay, I'll tell you what has struck me as most dramatic here is, Cheri, what you are doing right now. You have asked 4 of us to give you some feedback about how we have influenced you. And so in a sense, the 4 of us have all been sort of career counselors for you in a way.
Sort of.
Sort of, in an
Yes.
indirect way.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking, you have asked for feedback about what career counselors do that is effective for you. Well, isn't that an important thing for all of us to find out when we do career counseling? To find out what our clients think that we have done for them that is helpful. Now, it sort of sounds as if we are trying to, reap praise and flattery and so on, but no. It's very important that we know what we do that works and what we do that doesn't work. This is the way we learn. See, I think every client I counsel is a teacher for me. And so the fact that you have given me some feedback about something that I may have written that was influential for you, that gives me some encouragement. Maybe the crap that I write maybe has some value.
It's not crap, John.
and so maybe I'll keep writing it. See, each of us, when we come to a meeting like this, we want to go home with some kind of a take-home message. And usually, when I get home, my wife, Betty, says, well, how was the meeting? And did you learn anything valuable? And then I have to sort of think, well, did I learn anything valuable? And yes, I have. And I learned it from you by what you are doing right now of asking for feedback from us, you see? And I think that's a take-home message for everybody here, is that when you go back, you ought to be saying, you know, I ought to be doing more to get information about what my clients think that I have done that's good. That's sort of a radical idea, isn't it? And actually, I've got a new client coming in 3 days, and I'm going to orient her in this way. I'm going to say, you know, we're going to try out a lot of different things here, and what I believe is that what you are going to learn is what you do, not from me directly, but what you do when you go out into the world in the process of exploring whatever it is you're going to be exploring. And I want you to give me some feedback. I want you to decide now what you're going to do first, and when you do it, I want you to send me an email and let me know what it was that you did and got what kind of reactions you get, good or bad, or whatever it was. Would you be willing to do that? Well, yeah, how should I do it? And I'll say, well, why don't you send me an email? Just send me an email that says, you know, I told you I was going to make this telephone call to the, you know, HR office at Hewlett-Packard, and I did. I called the office, and they said they didn't have any job openings right now. Okay, see, and so I would email her back and say, oh, that's really good that you made that telephone call. You are beginning to take action, and now the next time we meet, let's talk about the next action you're going to take. See, I think it's important that we get our clients to be taking action, but I think it's important for us as counselors to get feedback on how effective the various things are that we help our clients do. Now, there's another reason why I think this is important. It's not just in order to help us improve our own technique and to make us feel good, but it is also, there are political reasons, because career counseling and counseling in general is subject to all kinds of political pressure. No matter where you are, somebody's got to be paying your salary. And whoever is paying your salary has to be getting that money from somewhere. And they have to justify why it is we are hiring you and continuing to pay money to you. And if you have some evidence that you can present that will say, look, this is the kind of things that I have been doing, and these are the positive consequences of these actions, you have a much more persuasive case than if you simply say, I have a lot of good intentions of doing good things. So I am saying that the take-home message for me about NCDA is that we ought to be spreading the word about what we're going to do in the next 15 years. We ought to be spreading the word that our main technique is to help our clients take constructive actions and to get feedback from them about what is effective and to disseminate this knowledge about what is effective to everybody else. And that is what I see NCDA doing in the future. And I'm so glad you asked. I'm so glad you set up this meeting. Cheri, thank you.
Thank you. Norm, how about you? What changes have you seen, and what do you see us doing in the future as a profession?
Well, I mean, I've seen a lot of changes. Somebody coming from an international perspective, one of the things that strikes me is when I first started with this association, I was asked to take over the international section. And so I called the first meeting, and it was everything passed very well. Since I was the only member in the room, it was quite easy to sort of get everything through without any objections, discussion.
Funny how that works.
It worked famously. But today, you know, you look around and you see international people all over this audience, and the international impact on NCDA is tremendous, and I think that's something that I see as going to continue and grow. That's a real growth area, I think, for this association. I think we're becoming a global community. I also want to make a comment about the heart of the organization, because that's something we can get caught up in the messages and the learning. But one of the things that I've appreciated coming into NCDA is the fact that in some ways this operates a bit like a family, and it takes care of people. And one of the things I saw right at the get-go was in 2004, I attended a conference here, and Dr. Spencer Niles, who was the president then, his conference, his mother dies in the middle of the conference. People gathered round, he went back home, Janet Len stepped up, people just took over, took care of him, took care of one another, and the conference continued. Last year I was supposed to be here and be a part of speaking at different events, and I had a heart attack just a month before. And the amount of care and, you know, people asking how you doing, where are things, we're looking for you last year, you weren't there, what's up, are you feeling okay? And you know, that's been a real part for me of being here this time, is just that sort of sense of caring that you get. And so I think we're here for the learning, but we're also here for the caring. We're also here because we take care of one another. We are concerned about our well-being as well as our clients' well-being. And our clients will be better served if we are taking care of one another. So that's what I've got.
Thank you. I'm going to change again. Howard, what festivities would you recommend for us to consider for our upcoming 100th birthday?
Well, we go to the Munich Oktoberfest first. I did have a good answer to that when you posed this before, and I'll be a little more direct with it. We are going to go to Atlanta next year.
Yes.
We're talking a lot about Boston in 2 years. Let's not forget Atlanta, okay? Boston, all kinds of history there, Constitution, the Patriot Trail and so forth. But I really think it might be very interesting if we chartered a bus and went to Westfield State University in Western Massachusetts. As one of the members of our association, played basketball there and often speaks about his athletic prowess. Well, rich fella, we're going to find out whether you really played ball there or you did score 75 points in one game or whatever. The other suggestion in terms of activities, in Atlanta, the Braves play. We have to check their schedule. And in Boston, Fenway Park may be open that day with the Red Sox. So it'd be nice to have a social group of people from NCDA involved in those kinds of activities as well as some of the more important ones.
Thanks for that. What advice would you give to a new career practitioner? John.
Well, you know, I want to build on something that Norm said about after his heart attack, how people supported him and helped him and cared for him. And I had just, before I came here this morning, I was at another meeting about international relationships, and Jane Goodman gave a quotation that I thought was really profound, and I wrote it down, and she said, People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I like that. It might be a nice motto for NCDA. Sometimes I think we spend too much time at meetings just giving facts and lists and blah-de-blah, and not enough time telling stories about how things really are and how we really feel. And so you ask what kind of changes I see? Well, that would be a direction I'd like to see us go.
Okay, thank you. What advice would you give, Marcheta, to a new practitioner?
You know, I would tell them to get to really know the person that they're working with and know the whole system, know the culture, know the color, the diversity, the context. All of that's important. The assessments are good. You go get the profiles and all those different kinds of things, and you learn that you should be a funeral director. Not. You know, really get to know who it is that you're working with. You know, the textbooks are great. I'm a counselor educator, but sometimes you have to dig a little bit deeper. Whether you're dealing with females or dealing with someone as far as an ethnic diversity, all of that comes and sits there in that chair with you. You have to know what the mama's telling the child, you know, about choosing what major they want to go in, or the daddy, or if they should be an athlete or not. And, you know, I wanted to be a PE teacher. That was one of my goals originally. And my grandmother says, oh, they don't make any money. You know, I'm like, man, I could have been a great coach. But I guess I'm doing it in another form or fashion. But really just getting to know who it is that you're working with, and understanding, again, that they're not an island. There's so many other different people that are sitting there with them. And make sure you hear all of those voices and understand the importance of those voices to that individual, because it will definitely guide them in giving you the information you need to be that tool to guide them in their choices. So, if that makes sense.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Norm, how about you? What advice would you give a new career practitioner?
Well, I think being connected is really a center point, and the question is, how do you actually get connected? And you come to a conference, and I mean, to be really honest, one of the things that happens at conferences, and I remember when I was starting out, you see people you want to connect with, but they're always got a kind of a crowd around them. So you're always kind of wanting to be there, but never quite being able to connect. But what I did learn is that you can follow up with them after a conference. If you don't connect with them in a conference, an email afterwards or some, you know, some questions that you send or something like that builds a relationship, and the next time you sort of have that kind of entry into that. But for me, it's a matter of finding mentors, finding people that you can learn from, connecting, getting involved, becoming part of a committee, joining something. When people are connected and involved and engaged, then they learn and they love what they do.
Great, thank you.
Cheri?
Yeah, tell them to join NCDA. That's what you tell them.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I was going to ask you too.
I've got to build on what's been said.
Okay.
I'll start with the last comment. First thing for a new person coming in, professional organizations, like I was taught 110 years ago, join NCDA, be involved not only nationally, but locally and state. And you have to develop those kind of contacts to make your life worthwhile. But in terms of the person being a practitioner, with all of the changes that we've seen in technology, Jim Sampson, Joanne Harris-Bowlesy can tell you millions of things that have happened over the last 5 years, last week. It's absolutely incredible. So people just get absolutely dazzled by that, and sometimes they're not sure where to go. Despite their technique, despite their situation, I think we've got to go back to the basics of a helping relationship, whether it's the Rogers technique or directive technique from the evil people. Whatever it is, I think in whatever situation we're in, and this is to all of us as well as to the person entering the profession at this time, we cannot forget the basics of a helping relationship. And I want to emphasize the fact that we do this with clients. We accept, we support, we encourage. We need to continue doing that with each other. We mentor each other. And that's what I would ask this beginning person to look at and to make sure that they were working with colleagues as well.
Great. One last question, and I'm going to start with Howard this time. Why NCDA and not some other organization?
Well, first of all, I was told I probably wouldn't get tenured if I didn't join NCDA.
Good reason.
Good reason.
Secondly, after 15 years of school counseling, I'd been involved in the fringes, but the people at Wayne State definitely influenced me to join. And from that, I would say it gives you a base. Norm talks about a family. It is a family. It's a professional organization. It's a personal relationship group. But in addition to that, I think I would say NCDA, but not exclusively. Sometimes we get so tied in a particular direction with a particular group of people who are not listening to others. And I would give you a tremendous example of that with how Pat and Norm Geisbers have worked with ASCA and with NCDA. I think those kind of collaborations you should not forget. And that's what I'd say on that.
So yes and.
Yes and.
Great. Marcheta, I'd like to hear from your perspective.
Definitely building on what he's saying. As far as NCDA is concerned, you have to be involved in your professional organization. This is what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. You know, you're a career counselor. And if you're not an advocate for your own profession, how can you expect someone else to be? But I would like to center on the word counselor. Being engaged as a counselor. We have got to do a better job as far as marketing what we do. When I try to go out and explain to someone what I do, oh, you're a counselor. Oh, does that mean you do social work? No. You know, are you a counseling psychologist? No. You know, I'm a counselor educator. And so I think, again, getting that word out, being involved in our profession, realizing that we're professional counselors. You're in a career setting, I'm at a university setting, someone's at a mental health setting. We have got to do a better job of getting that message out to the public, especially now with the economy the way it is, the emphasis on jobs. You're perfect. You're perfect. There should be jobs out there for you everywhere because you're helping others find jobs. So the best place to be involved is in your professional organization, building that advocacy, it was great to hear that you're going to have someone on the Hill now working with getting the message out more so that the people in power, so to speak, can get more funding and understand what we do. But you have to be involved and engaged and be an advocate for yourself. As you're teaching others to be assertive and advocate, you've got to be able to do the same. So another soapbox moment. Thank you.
Norm, from the international perspective, why NCDA?
Well, I guess I was involved with a number of different organizations internationally, and I really enjoyed those organizations. But I was also looking for a place that would feed me, where I could sit in the audience and be a learner, where I could not just give information, but I could receive. And I felt that NCDA did that. It sort of provided a place for me to sort of meet lots of really interesting and knowledgeable people and to come away having learned something. And so I made an early decision saying, yeah, this is something I'll stick with. It's the organization for me that I will continue to be involved in. And Howard, your idea about going to other organizations, going outside of this is important, and I will continue to do that, but this is the home for me.
Thank you. John, wrap it up.
Wrap it up.
Please.
Okay, well, I've got 2 hours to go then. Well, I love NCDA, and I can't imagine there not being one, and but I agree with Howard that it's NCDA and others, and I am a member of other organizations too. I think it's very important to be active in the organization, as you have stressed, Marcheta, and so that is really, I am endorsing what others have said. I feel the need to make one small correction, though, about, no, I'm not going to be a correction. It's going to be an addendum to your story about me, about first getting acquainted with the notion of planned happenstance, which is a term I'm no longer using. I'm now using the term the happenstance learning theory, but a lot of people haven't heard about that yet. And so if you would like a copy of it, and it's fairly short and fairly readable, very readable, you could get it from me by emailing me, and I would be glad to give you my email address. And it is simply jdk@stanford.edu. jdk@stanford.edu. And just say, send it, and I'll know what you mean. Because I think there are a lot of ideas in there that I would love to share with you. And some of them are quite radical, and some of them I've made reference to sort of indirectly here.
Are any of them evil?
Yeah, yes, they're all evil. They're all evil.
Because I can't wait.
Not halfway evil, they're completely evil. So, but I'm sure that you all have lovely evil ideas, so I just thought I'd mention that.
Thank you, John. Well, I think that you all can agree that these 4 people are truly extraordinary, ladies and gentlemen, so would you please join me in giving them a thank you.
You win the prize for humor.
Oh, thanks. You win the prize for wisdom.
Well, the time has come. This has been an extraordinary year for me. I have loved every single minute of it. I am honored that you all entrusted this fabulous organization to me for this past year. It's not quite over, but for all intents and purposes, the end of the conference is basically the time to say, to wrap it up. And I'm going to have the privilege to welcome your new and next NCDA president, Dr. Deb Osborne. So will you join us, Deb?
Let me get my technology running. Here we go. Well, it has been quite the party in Texas, hasn't it? In this past year, before I go on, Captain Cheri has led Team NCDA to many victories. We've collected timely information about the career development needs and activities of Americans through the Harris Poll Survey. That's a huge effort that we accomplished and that we're going to be able to rolling out to people that need to know who we are and what we're doing and the difference that we're making. That's going to increase our voice tremendously. It's going to empower our lobbyists on the Hill to show, look how we're needed, look at the needs that Americans have. So that was a huge victory. We also passed the 5,000 mark in membership, another huge victory for us. Based on previous initiatives, we hired a part-time lobbyist, as Marcheta was mentioning, thanks to Pat and the vision of the government relations team. And in sports, when the coach has led the team to a victory, usually the team shows their appreciation with great enthusiasm and a whole lot of Gatorade. But we don't have any Gatorade here, but on behalf of the 2010-2011 NCDA board, we did want to show our gratitude to our captain for the thoughtful planning and strategizing that led to so many wins for NCDA. And on behalf of the board, we'd like to present this with our token of appreciation for your vision and leadership. And it reads, Cheri Butler, Captain, Team NCDA 2010 to 2011, plays the impossible dream and is just covered with all kinds of success words. Would you please join me in thanking Cheri for her leadership?
Thank you all so much. And it's my pleasure to ceremonially hand the gavel to Deb as our new president. So, thanks, Deb.
Thank you.
Good luck.
So as we conclude our conference here in San Antonio and plan for next year's reunion, I'd like to ask you to mark your calendar for June 21st to 23rd. We will be meeting in beautiful, culturally rich Atlanta, Georgia, home of the Atlanta Braves, who, Howard, as you said, they are playing during our conference, so I'm with you on that. Let's go to a game. But also the birthplace of Martin Luther King Jr. In addition, I want Nancy Farber to especially plan because she won a free registration for next year. So if you're Nancy Farber, we will be in touch with you. So make note of that. Our NCDA theme for this coming year is building on the dream. Each of us has a different dream or a vision of who we are and who we hope to be personally and professionally. In this room and throughout our association as a whole, we represent a wide variety of professions. We are career counselors, career development facilitators, counselor educators, entrepreneurs, job search coaches, military, private practitioners, school counselors, retirees, and much more. But despite our different titles, we are all in the business of helping others, whether directly or indirectly, give voice to and then take the steps towards realizing their dreams. As your professional association, I'd like to challenge you to think about your vision for NCDA. Where would you like to see NCDA this year, in the following 2 years, and in the years to come? And I'd like to briefly just share two of my dreams for NCDA in this coming year and the couple to follow. The first area is obviously in the area of technology. My ringtone is from Napoleon Dynamite. I love technology, so I'm a little bit of a techno nerd, and you know that, and I appreciate being loved for you despite that. We were just absolutely overwhelmed with the response this year to the tech labs, and in previous years to those technology presentations. I'd try to get to one, and it would be all packed out through the door. People standing in the halls just to hear a glimpse or hear a snippet of something to help with technology. We recognize that this is an indication that this is something you really want and need, and that it's part of your dedication to being a professional to be up and cutting edge on these technologies. And so I think that means that we probably need to have more than just an annual opportunity to learn about the technologies that are out there so that we can enable you to connect with each other, with us, with your clients, but also to do your job well. So be looking for that. That's a commitment that I'd like to make and that we're going to be exploring. With the technologies that are available today, there certainly are more opportunities for training and connecting. And in my technology dream, and it may be a little out there, but I'd like to have multiple webinars, multiple podcasts on a variety of topics. There's no reason we can't, including a regular podcast or EPUBs with Career Convergence or other things. We'd have a Twitter stream at the conference like they did at ACA this year. I was part of that. That was my personal commitment with technology, and we'll get on Twitter. And I tweeted a couple times. We'd have a Twitter stream. We'd have several interactive online tools for our students and our clients and professionals to use with their clients, and even an NCDA presence in Second Life, and there's some exciting things going on there. There'd be an app for all of this in today's world. My second theme is in the area of diversity, and I can tell you I'm so encouraged that during so many of our sessions, our first-timer sessions, just walking down the hall and passing each other to see so many groups represented. Norm, you mentioned the international presence. We're so grateful. I mean, it's a tribute to the strides that we've been making in this area. But still, I think we need to acknowledge that we have a long way to go there. We need to do more to make sure that individuals from diverse backgrounds really feel welcomed in our organization, in our family, that they have a voice, not just as a general member, but also in leadership and throughout the entire organization. And while the discussion about this has been ongoing for quite a while, I think it's high time for us to put some feet to our feelings, and ranging from the simplistic ideas to the idealistic ideas, hear from you as to ideas that how we can accomplish that goal. And those are two of my very general dreams. With the board and with our committees, we're going to be asking for your feedback and for your vision for NCDA. We incorporate that. A lot of the changes you saw this year was a result of feedback you gave us last year. It was so exciting during our committee times to see so many of you there, and the activity and the energy. And I'll let you know that Cheri and I had sent out an email prior to the conference to say we would like you to be engaged at this conference talking about at least one diversity initiative that each of the committees could put forth, and one technology committee initiative. And we're seeing, hopefully, that there'll be some overlap there, but we'll be getting that information soon. It's not too late to get involved with those. The chairs, the names of the chairs, our emails are on our website. Please, we genuinely from our heart want to hear from you on those issues. Finally, before I close out, please let me say thank you to those who have cheered me on along the way and have opened the doors of opportunity for me. First and foremost, please allow me to say thank you to my God for this opportunity to serve you and to do such amazing work with you. Thankful. For my USF family, I was just amazed. For my students, my doctoral students, my master's level students that came for the very first time. And again, thank you for all of you that reached out and embraced them and encouraged them. They saw their heroes here. They saw Mark Savickas. They saw Jim Sampson. They saw John. Well, they haven't seen Norm yet, but they're waiting to see him afterwards. But thank you for embracing them and encouraging them. It means so much as a counselor educator to see these 5 students come into the fold and to feel like they're part of the family. For my Florida State family, my new family, my returning family, alumni and current students, the amazing faculty that are there, Bob Reardon, Jim Sampson, Janet Lenz, Gary Peterson, you all planted those seeds for the love of this field so many years ago, I won't say how long ago, but have nurtured my growth as a professional along the way. There's no way I would have been here today, and perhaps even in this profession, if you had not reached out to me, and I thank you for that. To my NCDA family, all of you, to each of you that I've met through the years, even at this conference, you've shared your wisdom and your experiences, your smiles, your encouragement, your hugs. Thank you for that. To the first-timers I met at this session, I was just amazed. They were out the door just trying to get involved, and then the activity afterwards and just seeing your enthusiasm. It's inspiring to those of us that have been coming for a long while to say, these are the fresh faces. These are the people that are going to carry us on into the next generation of NCDA and career development professionals. For our international guests who have honored us so greatly with your presence, we thank you, and I thank you. Our graduate students, not just the 2 educational institutions I represent, but all of you, thank you for coming. Thank you for choosing to serve, just for the opportunity to go in and hook up an LCD panel just to be able to hear a little bit of the information that's going on. Thank you for that. For our executive director and our amazing staff that keeps our organization running on a daily basis, working tirelessly behind the scenes, keeping us going, thank you so much. For our thoughtful and selfless leaders who have gone before and paved the way for us, investing tirelessly, selflessly in helping us to shape NCDA into the premier association for career development, I thank you for keeping the standard held high and for your willingness to listen, support, and even challenge when it's been appropriate. That's so important. Thank you to each of you who have served in the association at the national, state levels, and in the profession, whether through the committee work you've done, or making presentations, conducting research. Our theorists, thank you so much for holding that standard high. Defining best practices. Thank you to our ACA leadership and our distinguished guests who are among us for honoring us with your presence, for all your commitment in providing the highest quality of service. You challenge each of us. I thank you, each one of you, for being here, for choosing the last moment, the last session of the conference to come here. You honor me and you honor our profession, and I'm so grateful. From my heart, I sincerely thank you for the impressions that each of you, whether I've known your name specifically or not, have made on me as we've walked through these halls. And finally, my personal family, I'd like to say thank you to my grandmother, Esther Norris, Mester, who wanted to be here, but her health prevented her. She's an amazing source of inspiration. You know how grandmas are. Always available. She's a late night owl like me at 1 o'clock in the morning for those phone calls. She's the one I can call. I know she'll be up. My mother, who is sitting in the back, many of you got to meet her. She joined NCDA last year just to cast a vote for me. That is a mama's love. She's been in the session. She met Jane Goodman. She's encouraged. You know, I just thank you so much, Mom, for just showing me how to be a professional and for investing in me even at this stage. My father, Bob Norris, who's sitting beside her, has such a servant's heart and has taught me that above all else, be a person of integrity. I thank you. My beautiful daughters up here in the front, Sarah, my 12-year-old, and Savannah, who will be 10 in a few short days. You are my heart. You are our future. It's your future and the future of all the children in our world. That is why we are here. You're the reason that we're coming. We want you to dream big, and we want to be along the way to help you accomplish your dreams. Whether it's to be a flower, or to be a veterinarian, or a writer, or a horse. We've gone through all those career aspirations, I honestly tell you. So we'll see where that ends up. finally, the love of my life, my husband, Keith. Would you please stand just for a moment and say hello? You're my best friend and my confidant and my soulmate, and I'm not 100% sure what lies ahead in terms of the demands and the impact that this role will take on our family, but I know that I won't walk it alone. For 14 years, you've been there beside me, behind me, pushing me along, holding me up, and I thank you. My friends and my family, it's been absolutely fabulous to see you all again. I know you are leaving here, and I hope you're leaving here feeling refreshed, feeling connected, feeling that enriched in your soul, feeling better prepared to go out and equipped with sharper skills for the work that you do. And I hope, again, that you're making plans to attend the session with us in Atlanta, especially Nancy Farber. I hope that you have very safe travels, and I hope, again, to see you next year. I'm going to turn it back to Cheri. Thank you.
I think we can put this one in the can. Thank you, and we are adjourned. Till next year.